All right, I'm gonna let the intro play real quick, so we'll just let that go. All right.
So,
WV Uncommon Place. This podcast is a variety podcast that houses numerous series to cover mental health, empowerment, podcast framework, and various intimate theories to get to know the hosts, along with occasional movies reviews and dives in pop culture with our event podcast episode. The Uncommon Place digs into bringing guests on that stories don't fit the mold and are very different. WV stands for the great state of West Virginia, and every quarter we cover something in West Virginia. Stacey and myself, JR, are your hosts, so please come along for this venture to our Uncommon Place.
Howdy, everybody. My name is J.R. Sparrow, just like the intro told you, and we're coming back from a little bit of a hiatus. Today, we were joined by Dr. Joe. Now, Dr. Joe is here to talk to us about a mental health stigma of codependency. Codependency has a good name and a bad name because some people say codependency is good, some people say it's bad, and some people don't know what codependency is. Now, Dr. Joe, could you tell us a little bit about your expertise, please?
yes. So, codependency is basically a phenomenon where someone is caring more about somebody else's needs and wants or feeling their feelings more than their own. It often starts in an addiction relationship, say, where, for example, my dad was an alcoholic and my mom was always taking care of his needs and covering up for him and doing all of these behaviors that putting her own needs aside in order to take care of my dad. And another example was me as the daughter thinking I had to do whatever I could or be perfect or get this particular thing done, and that would get him sober. So it's totally losing sight of what I might need, even as a child, and putting his needs above mine. That's one example. Yeah. It evolved seeing that there's also codependent relationships at work, and not only at home, in friendships, in all kinds of situations. It's really a delicate balance in relationships in terms of who is taking care of who and whose feelings are where. There has to be boundaries and there has to be communication in relationships in order to not get into this codependent relationship. It's very easy for one person to, I don't want to say have more power, but for one person to be more needy and for the other person to kind of take on the role of caregiver, which can also often look like codependency or losing their own needs and feeling the other person's feelings and interpreting or anticipating their needs and kind of taking over like that. So, to figure out how to set your own boundaries and how to figure out what your own needs and wants are and be assertive about that and not be sort of rolled back by anybody else who may be more assertive or more aggressive about what they need and want or more manipulative.
Okay. Now, one aspect I'd like to go to, if you don't care, if we could go to a
Yep.
nervous system perspective, what happens in your
Mhm,
body when someone is caught in a codependent pattern?
mhm. So, one of the things is we get used to whatever state our nervous system is in, even if it's chaos. So, for example, someone who is in an abusive relationship, they're used to being at an elevated nervous system level. So that makes them feel safe, actually, even though that's counterintuitive. So they are going to seek similar situations that has their nervous system activated because that, oddly enough, feels safe. So with a codependent system, there's something rewarding about having the feeling of someone needing you and about attending to their needs and their wants versus paying attention to what you need and want, which is more scary because then you have to look at yourself and be responsible for yourself. Instead, the nervous system is, more calm and at peace when I'm thinking about what you need, because that's what I'm used to. I'm used to taking care of everybody else. I don't want to look at my own shit, but I do want to look at everybody else's. And I'm a caretaker. I am all love. I am all nurturance. So I'm going to take care of everybody else because that gives me joy. That makes me feel good. That calms my nervous system, so it's a kind of a feedback cycle. Mhm.
Okay. Now, one thing that I notice, like people caring for people, people sometimes confuse kindness with codependency? Where do you see the difference?
Mhm. Yeah, I think the difference is kindness from comes from an authentic place of love with the proper boundary of selfhood. So, whereas codependency is coming from a place of love, but also coming from a place of insecurity and a place of need of esteem, need of validation. Okay. So it's coming from an emptiness. And the behavior is more about getting needs met in a not helpful way. So if I'm kind, I am doing it without my own agenda. And these agendas aren't conscious, but codependency is more like, okay, I'm going to avoid my own issues and I'm going to tend to your needs. And yes, it's kind because I'm taking care of you, but it's not necessarily helpful for either of us. If I'm covering up your behavior by lying about why you miss work, that's not good for you. And it's not good for me because then I feel icky about it. And I also am taking care of you. And whoops, oh, sure. Yeah, kindness comes from a place of love and it's not an agenda. So there's no ego involved. Whereas codependence, there's an agenda, it's not conscious, but there's this need to be validated or need to be important or needed. So, for example, I am lying to cover up somebody's missing work because they were drunk. So, but that is ultimately not helpful for that person or for me because it makes me feel icky. It makes that person, enables their behavior. There's a lot of enabling with codependency. However, it does make me feel good for a moment because I'll take care of you, honey. I'll fix this for you. I'll call the work and I'll tell them for you. So you don't have to deal with that. Just go back to bed. Do you see what I mean? Like oh, that seems like a kind thing to do, but it's not. So that's where sometimes the kindness is you have to look at the motivation and the long term consequences of what you're doing because often the kindness looks like enabling.
Okay, okay. Now, can childhood experiences shape codependent behaviors later in life?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think when you grow up in shame, and basically I will say anyone who has any trauma before the age of 5, because before that age, you're not able to understand that everything that happens around you isn't because of you. You just don't have the cognitive capacity. So anything that happens is your fault. So it's internalized as I am a bad kid. So going through life with that perspective, then you're always going to be, not always, but you tend to put other people's needs before you. You may not even know your internal self. You may be disembodied and not know what you want or need. Not, and also you may not want to go there. You may not want to go inside and understand yourself. So much easier to focus on other people's needs and wants and be a caretaker to them. That keeps the focus off of you. And because you feel so bad about yourself, you feel like if I can save other people, maybe I'm worthy. Mhm. And because you ruined whatever when you were a child, it's your fault. It's your duty to fix things. Mhm. Yeah, definitely. And there's also something called repetition compulsion. So if I'm a child and one of my parents is a drug addict, and so there's all that chaos related to that, right? I didn't get my needs met from that parent. So as an adult, even though I know logically that ain't the way to go, go to someone who's a drug addict, what I will do is I will seek that kind of partner unconsciously because I am attempting to fix and correct that pattern that happened to me when I was a kid. So over and over until I work through that, I'm going to find a partner who is a drug addict. And unconsciously, I'm seeking to get those needs met that I didn't get met as a child with a drug addict as a parent. It's fascinating. I see it all the time. Mhm. And that's kind of a form of codependency too. Yeah. It's amazing the way patterns play out. You can just predict it. I'm an example and now I understand that and I can just watch it and look at it in my past and just go, wow. And be grateful that I'm through it. But I look at myself as a case study in so many ways. When I was 12, I wanted to be a psychologist. And one of my professors in grad school said, psychologists are the ultimate narcissists because we want to understand ourselves, to such a And I'm like, yeah, maybe. That's okay though. Mhm. Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Now, I want to pick on one group of people real quick 'cause I deal with them. They're actually the demographic for the show. Why
mhm,
do so many high achieving and compassionate women find themselves in codependent relationships?
mhm. That's a great question. I think one of the reasons is often high achieving, accomplished women are perfectionists and they have a certain reason why they have such high drive. They're very creative, high intelligence. That comes with some risk factors. That comes with, insecurity. It often motivation for that kind of thing comes from having a childhood where you didn't get your needs met. So there's this I need to prove myself, I need to prove that I'm worthy sensation. And so that lends itself to codependent behavior. That lends itself to wanting to prove yourself also in a relationship. So always needing to be the one who's fixing the other person and who's taking care of them. So not only in work do I have to prove myself, but I have to prove myself in a relationship. Kind of goes together. And I think in society, it still is, well, not I think. I mean, it's still hard to be a professional, successful woman without being judged, without being, and part of this is the sister wound. Women are still competing and comparing with each other. And as if there's not, abundance, like there's not enough roles for us. And frankly, there's not. So that is one of my missions is to heal the sister wound because that gets in the way big time of us lifting each other up. Mhm. So I think that's part of the pressure on professional women and not taking care of our own needs, not nourishing ourselves, not taking care of ourselves, not taking time off, not having girlfriends that we can spend time with because we're just busy competing and talking shit. Those are some of the factors I think that lead to more codependent behaviors because then we're not looking at our own needs. Mhm. Great question.
Great, thank you, thank you. Now, what role does people pleasing play in codependency, and why can it feel so difficult to stop? Because even I found myself at one time in life, I was a people pleaser to certain people because I was like,
Mhm.
man, I like the effects that come from the attention this type of person gives me. Other people, I could throw them in the water and not care. Why is that?
Yeah, it's selective. Well, part of it has to do with the energy somebody is giving off. We are attracted to a certain type of energy and we want certain energy back. Part of it is just our society is wired, especially for women, to make us, we want to please. We're supposed to be kind and generous and not disruptive. So for a woman to say no or to be, you know, not even disruptive, but to just be assertive is a difficult thing to do. Even me, I'm sold all the time. People try to sell things to me all the time. And I still have trouble just saying no. I mean, it's gotten much easier now, but it is a conditioned thing that we are to be kind and that we are to say yes. I'm not even going to go into sexually how that is played out in terms of sex is expected. And for women, saying no one time is not good enough. That's a whole nother subject. So that all plays into this people pleasing thing. We are literally taught that that's our job. And so I think that plays into codependency because it's the whole pattern. As you're doing that, let's say you're starting a relationship and you're already doing the things to please the person because you think you have to in order to have them like you. It's hard to then break that pattern. And continuing to do that will naturally lead to a codependent pattern because you're into that and then the relationship moves along. It's harder to all of a sudden be like, you know what? I'm not going to take care of that need anymore. I'm going to not do that. And they're like, girl, you've been doing that. Why are you going to stop? You know, people create expectations. That's why when I talk to women, I'm like, from the beginning, these are my expectations. I don't put up with this, this, this. And they're like, can I really say that? Fucking right, you can. This is your life and your relationship. You do not put up with this, this, this. Women don't think that way. We're think, the bar is so low sometimes, and we're like, oh, yeah, but my last boyfriend did this. It's crazy. So I get all over on different topics. Sorry about that. But I gotta, this is where my brain goes.
Now, how can you tell whether they're acting from genuine love or from fear of rejection or abandonment? Because I've had the issue come up in life, say, like in a relationship, for instance, I may profess my love to someone, right? And when I
Mhm.
profess it to that person, because I have a certain aura or a way about me, just from my speech, someone can become codependent on me and want that
Mhm.
phone call, this and that. And then not to lose me, I may be like, hey, I love you, or say something, just out of the
Yeah.
way. And that person
Uh-huh.
repeats it back.
Yeah.
Do people do that if they form a codependency? Like, how do you know if it's genuine love or if it was just they don't want the fear of rejection or abandonment?
That's a very good point. And I think part of it is just trust. Part of it is just, we don't always know. We can't know what's in the other person's mind. So we just go with faith. Like, you're going to tell me you love me. Okay. I'm going to believe you, but then I'm going to watch. I'm going to observe your actions. And communication is the key. Like, if you see someone, first being aware is a lot of self awareness, being aware of your own behaviors, like thinking about when you tell someone you love them, where did that come from? Like, when you sit with your body, a lot of it is embodiment, when you can pay attention to what your body says, because this is largely lies and illusion and conditioning. So when you sit and think about, I'm going to tell this person I love them, how does that feel in my body? Does that bring a smile? Does that calm me down? Does that feel good? Tension rolls off me? Or do you get more tense? Then you go, okay, why am I doing this? You know what I mean? Like, you pay attention to my motivation and intention. Am I saying this just because I don't want to lose her? Or because I'm feeling anxious? Well, then talk to her about your insecurity and how you're feeling anxious rather than throwing out the I love you. You know what I mean? That's where it's about self awareness and paying attention to yourself and then talking to your partner about difficult things. Like, hey, I'm thinking about opening up the relationship. How do you feel about that? Who wants to start that conversation? But sometimes that's the thing to do. Yeah.
Okay. Now, talking about embodiment, 'cause I know that's something that you like to get into.
Yeah.
Can reconnecting with the body help someone begin healing from codependency? Because I've seen people that they have someone that made them codependent, or they became codependent on someone and they remove that person from their lives, right?
Mhm.
But they don't know how to realign themselves.
Yes. Yes. That's a great question. And I mean, I think one of the things that I work with people in is just re-entering their body. A lot of us, men and women, and people who have been sexually abused, particularly in eating disorders, certain things, live from here up, and professionals, and we forget that we have a body that has a lot of wisdom, even more than our mind. So learning how to sink into and settle into your body and actually listen to its wisdom can bring you back to yourself more than just doing the cognitive work. We have actually a brain in our heart and our belly, meaning we have neurotransmitters that from there send messages up to the brain. So we actually have wisdom and we can pay attention to that and learn from that. Sometimes if I have a question I can't decide in my head, I just get still and I answer one way and pay attention to my body, answer the other way, pay attention, and my body will shake and give me the answer. I don't even have to think about it. So there's a lot of cool ways that our bodies will inform us. Mhm.
Okay. So the
Mhm.
physical signs that our body's telling us we're abandoning ourselves to meet someone else's needs. What are some of those physical signs that you've seen personally, like you?
Okay. So if I like going numb, okay, or dissociating. So that would be if I'm with someone and all of a sudden I'm feeling myself go away, like we're having a conversation and I drift off and I'm like, okay, where did I go? Like, I'm not attending to this person because there's something making me uncomfortable here. So then I just got to reevaluate. And sometimes I'll just be, hang on a second, I'm kind of going away. And then I'll kind of regroup and I'll say, okay, so what were we talking about? Because I get kind of distracted there. And let's say they're complaining about something and I'm feeling the need to fix it. Then that it kind of went away. So then I'll be like, you know what? Okay, so I know you're talking about that problem. I'm just going to let you know that there's part of me that just wants to jump in and fix that for you. So I'm naming that because I don't want to do that. So, okay, let's keep talking about it, but just so you know, I'm not going to fix that for you because I know you can handle it. You're strong. You're a grown ass woman. Let's keep talking about it. Just acknowledging my tendencies. Like that. Naming the behavior, naming your thoughts takes so much of the power away. And there's no shame in that. We don't do that, but there's no shame in that. I'm just calling myself out like, hey, I noticed this was just happening and now it's not because I named it. It goes away. Mhm. Sure. And the more you do that, the more aware you become, the more conscious you become, the less power your thoughts have. It's a beautiful thing. Like with my eating disorder, sometimes I will hear the whispers like, oh, here she comes again. I want to order this burger, but I'm like, I can't have the bun. And then I'll be like, okay, I hear you, but you know what? I got this. I got this. I don't need you. It is so helpful. So helpful. So same thing with codependency, just look for it and then be like, hey, I don't want to play. You can go away. And then just come back to your center. Just come back to alignment.
Okay. How important are healthy boundaries in recovering from codependency?
Yeah, absolutely
When
crucial. Mhm.
when that happens, you kind of feel uncomfortable at first because when I started working on myself,
Mhm.
I felt real uncomfortable. I was like, why do I need to work on this when I just stopped doing what was making me codependent?
Yeah. 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 Boundaries are really tricky because one thing I suggest people do is have a translucent bubble around themselves. You can find a color, whatever works for you. And you can use it as both ways. So when somebody says something that is too much or you don't want to take into your bubble, let it bounce off. And such as if somebody is telling you something that's really troubling going on in their life, and normally you would be jumping in to fix it, instead let it bounce off your bubble. You can still listen because you've got space for that and you can hold space for them, but you're not going to fix. Similarly, you can also block out messages completely. Like if you're watching the news too much, example, stop, don't let it in. And then similarly, it works on the other way. So if I tend to tell my whole story to everybody. So I get to monitor, like I don't let everything out to everyone. And I also get to be aware of where and it's safe to let my story out and also not want someone to fix me or, give me answer because that doesn't work and I don't want to hear it. But to understand that I'm giving the story just for people to hold space. I'm not looking for someone to fix. So that's part of my boundary. Then I get to take responsibility for it and ownership and do it myself, do the work myself. Mhm. That takes a lot of time to learn, a lot of time. Mhm. Yep. And same thing goes at work and everywhere else. I mean, I think the workplace boundaries get crossed all the time in terms of people not respecting, what one person's task is versus theirs, competing and taking over and all that stuff, sexual boundaries, things like that. So I think conversation about it more often would be really helpful. Mhm. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, now I have one question. And this is one that was polled by our audience, and this is their super question.
Okay.
What advice would you give someone who feels guilty every time they say no?
Oh, that's so good. So good. Yes. And this is a very common thing. I think sort of maybe some self talk. Every time you say no, be like, yes, go you. I'm so proud of myself. Really emphasizing that when you do say no, it's a victory. It is a huge victory. You are saying yes to yourself. When you say no to someone else, you're saying yes to you. And think about, I mean, who else is going to be your biggest fan than you? And think and saying no to something is saying yes to something else. It opens the door to something else. It's not just a no, it's a yes to something else. Other opportunity, other, person, it's a yes to you. So reframing it a little bit is important. And then also think about how many times you wanted to say no and you didn't. The catastrophes that happen and how it feels. and just keep on cheering yourself and being like, I got this. I am strong enough. I know what I want now and I'm going to get it. And trusting your body, feeling it in your body. And once you get that embodiment and that feeling of, alignment, then you've got more power to do it. Mhm. But yeah, that's the hard one. It takes practice. And, sometimes I tell people to do little practice things, just set up things like order something at a restaurant and send it back, even if there's nothing wrong. Just do it. Practice your assertiveness. Just be like, hey, I need a little more fries, whatever it is. But, because people aren't going to be just devastated. The waitress isn't going to like, holy shit, you ruined my life. She's going to say, and get you more fries. But look at what you did. You were assertive and you got a little uncomfortable. I say, because I often make people uncomfortable, which I love with my energy, but I say, I welcome you to sit with the discomfort because with discomfort, there's an opportunity, there's a space to develop compassion, to discover something about yourself, to learn open-mindedness and flexibility. So, yeah, put yourself in that position of discomfort. And then saying no will get easier. Mhm. That's my advice.
Thank you so much for that. I think that's probably one of the most insightful things in here, 'cause that's the question I was going over with earlier with someone I care about, and we really wanted the answer to that now. This question is a personal question now for me, 'cause
Sure.
I'm a real
Sure.
technical person.
Okay.
Is it is it possible to heal from codependency while remaining in the same relationship, or does healing sometimes require distance? Because here's my
Mhm.
thing, right? And I'm guilty of this, and some people are guilty of this all the time. I can swoop in when someone is trying to heal, maybe they've broken up with somebody or something, and I'm guilty. I think everybody's guilty of this one thing. You swoop in and you're the knight in shining armor, and you really
Yeah.
didn't give that, or the heroine in the armor, you really didn't give that person time to heal, but you knew that
Yeah.
you're a better option than, what's out there or what they
Yeah.
previously have. So I
Mhm.
need you to help me and everybody else in the world not be
Mhm.
these knights in shining armor, and let us know, do these people need to heal with that person,
Mhm.
or should they be healing apart and we stay away?
You know, I don't buy that shit about you must stay, somebody needs separation to heal fully. I don't buy that because I think when people fall in love, let that happen. I mean, I don't believe in artificial boundaries or, when people get sober, wait a year. I mean, yes, there's reasons for that, but whatever. If life but you can be conscious about it and you can be deliberate and, use discernment. And that means allowing space for the person to do their work, not jumping in and saying, this is all good, but saying, hey, I want to be with you. And I respect that you're on a journey and I'm going to give you all that space to do it. I want to be in my own growth. You also being on your own growth journey because when someone is growing, you're going along like this, but if somebody is growing and you don't, it ain't going to work. So it's also making a personal commitment because when somebody breaks up or whatever, they hopefully will choose to do a growth path, you know, and otherwise, not great. But if they do, then if you're going to partner up with them, you get to choose that too. And I say get to because that's a beautiful benefit. So if you invest in that with your partner and say, hey, let's both grow, I'm going to do this too, and do that separately, but together, then it's gold. Yeah. But if you just kind of like glom on and be like, you do the work and I'm just going to be sitting here, not as great because you want to be fully supportive. And that means looking at yourself. It ain't all about her. See what I mean? You get to learn about you. And what is more fascinating than you? I always tell people, why wouldn't everyone want to be in therapy? Because everybody is so fascinating. Why wouldn't you want to learn about yourself? What is more interesting? And learning ways to live your most happy and joyful and peaceful life. Why not? All it is self-awareness. You start there. And then you do the embodiment work. And then you do the spiritual work. It's worth it. And then the boundaries come and then the codependency goes. I mean, it all falls together. The nervous system regulation, it all works together.
Okay. Now,
Mhm.
how does community, and this one's deep for the audience right here, especially women supporting women, how do they help break cycles of codependency and isolation? And the
Mhm.
reason I want to ask you this is because this is what I find my wife, her friends, and other people as they get older, an actual woman to woman relationship dissolves. It's not the same camaraderie they had as teenagers or even in high school. Like it seems like women, and I'm not trying to be sexist when I say this, but it almost
No,
seems
please.
like they kind of build pseudo rivalries with each other
Mhm.
because
Yeah.
they're like these women are supporting each other for a certain reason. It's so many different little intricate things that keep that
Mhm.
community apart. How do they
Yes.
break these cycles of codependency on others
Mhm.
and isolation? How do they stop
Yeah.
and just come back to being a whole community? Because there's a lady
Brilliant
listening
question.
right now. There's another lady somewhere in Toledo listening too or watching,
Mhm.
and
Yep.
she used to be part of a group, and now she's not a
Mhm.
part of a group. And then the other lady and the other lady are together, beating off each other, but the that used to be with them is not there now.
Mhm. Yeah, and this is such a big question, and this is my mission is to heal the sister wound, which started way back when women were first separated because we used to live in tribe, together. And the problem is there's cattiness, there's gossip, there's competition, there's comparing, all of that stuff today, which there's so many reasons why. But I think when women start gathering again, I recommend anyone to go to women's circles. That is happening more and more. I have a women's circle. That is a way that we can talk about difficult topics, journal, share, laugh, cry, all of that stuff, and gather in community. And then my idea is having a sister to sister sustainable retreat system, ecosystem. That's a whole nother topic. But yeah, there are ways that we're trying to work on healing this. And it's going to be very extensive and it's going to take time. But mostly working on yourself, working on letting go of your own judgments of yourself and others, and then being willing to meet women and be aware of your judgment, let it go. Notice when you're judging because you are. I don't care what you say. And notice when you are gossiping, let it go. Stop. Call your sisters out on it. When they start talking, just no, I ain't not talking about our friends. And then you start befriending other women who aren't like you. You know what I mean? And then when you do that, you'll see, oh, we're all the same. And then go on, do things with these other women. Push yourself, get uncomfortable. It's one thing at a time. We have got to stop thinking that we can heal alone. We need each other. We absolutely do. We are all in this together. There's abundance, there's not scarcity. There's enough for all of us. And when we work together, we can do the real healing so that we can heal the world, the earth, everything. And women, no offense to you, but we're going to do this first because we are natural healers and caretakers. We're life bringers, and men are following slowly. I mean, they do have men's groups now, like in Minneapolis. I love it. I love it because we're all going to eventually, this is my utopia. We're all going to, that's what's going to be important because the insurance companies, Western medicine, it ain't working. Right. So, yeah, that's what I think. So that's what I'm creating. I'm manifesting. That's all. That's my plan.
All right, thank you on that one. Now, here's what I need. In a relationship at some point, I lost a lady to her codependency to me, and I don't want to apologize, but I want to apologize because I was part of the problem. But what could the lady learn about see from someone else
Mhm.
to save her relationship? Because what happened with me was this person became so codependent on me, it was almost like every little aspect of life, even decision making, fell on me. And I eventually got to the point where I felt like, why am I taking care of two people?
Yes.
And this person used to make decisions and they don't make them. They rely
Mhm.
solely on what I believe and
Mhm.
whatever my convictions are. They don't even want to stress theirs. How do you save a person like that?
Mhm.
What could I have saved that lady? Or
Mhm.
how could she have
Yes.
saved herself? That's the best answer. I mean, answer the question. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, that's great. I appreciate you changing that because, of course, it's not your responsibility to save her. So good one. But so I'm picturing in this situation, you know, sort of having a conversation with her and just saying, I can't do this anymore. I don't want the responsibility of making your choices. It is not fun for me, when you're trying to decide something and you rely on me. I don't want that burden. You get to take care of yourself. And then suggesting that she get help, whether that's therapy or, shaman, there's a lot of different options now. And if she wasn't willing to, then it might, have to end. But maybe she would have been willing to, or even going to an exercise class, like a yoga class, where she would meet some women in community. Some of those things, getting her any kind of support, or if she had family support or friend support, so that she can start to build up an identity, because it sounds like she really didn't have one. And then, you know, it wasn't yours to repair. It sounds like she was pretty far into insecurity and lack of identity. So it may not have worked, but also just starting to set boundaries and refuse to allow her to sort of take care of you. I don't know if that was part of what was happening. Or was you taking care of her? Or which way? You taking care of her, kinda? So you were the codependent, right? Okay. So that would have been for you doing a lot of self-awareness work and starting to focus on your needs and wants and letting her be responsible. Stop being the nice guy. It's hard. Wait.
Thank you. I wanna tell you thank you for that because that may have saved a relationship a long time ago. Not now, but,
Yeah.
you know. Now,
Yeah.
before we get anywhere, there's one thing that's nostalgic to this show. We do what they call a shameless plug where you can the audience can meet and greet you across the internet. So, Doctor Joe, what I need you to do real quick for us in the most subtle but concise manner, can you let the audience know where they can meet and greet you across the internet? They can become a part of your persuasion, and they can get the Doctor Joe experience. Your turn.
Absolutely. My website is www.tulasoul.com. That's TULASOUL.com. My Instagram is Holistic Coach Joe. That's two C's. And my Facebook is Dr. Joe Tula Soul. And my LinkedIn is Dr. Joe Tula Soul. And I have a newsletter on there too. So that's it.
Okay. Now, the last question before we get off here, because I know you're a busy person, and this is my favorite question of the whole thing because it ends the show. For
Okay.
someone listening today who recognizes themselves in this conversation, what's one small step they can take this week to begin reclaiming their sense of self? And how can they reward themselves without feeling that it's gratification?
Mhm. Okay. So what I suggest is starting with affirmations, but not regular affirmations. I want you to look in the mirror in your eyeballs, preferably to the left eye. There's a reason for that. And speak out loud your affirmation, working up towards I love you to yourself. So the gratification just comes from doing it, because this is not an easy thing to do. So when you do it, you get to say something like, "Hey, that's good." You don't have to swear. But you just get to say, pat yourself on the back and be like, I did this. I can do this. I can do hard things. And eventually it's going to be easier and easier. When you work up to, I love you, saying that to yourself into your eyes, it's going to feel like bliss. And you do that every day, you will get there. Mhm. It doesn't take long. You can do it. And if you can't look in your eye at first and you just have to say it, even though you don't believe it, do that. You'll get there. You can put post it notes up on your, and they can be, they don't have to be I am worthy. They can be simple like that, or you can tailor them to your whatever you want to say. One of my favorites is right here, right now, I am safe. Right here, right now, I am safe. That worked for me for a long time because I didn't feel safe. But if you think about in this moment, we're safe. So yeah, work with whatever works for you. And if anybody wants to contact me, I have lists and lists of them. Yeah. So thank you. That was a good question. Yeah.
All right. So, Joe, I want to tell you thank you for coming on the show and thank you for expressively helping us understand codependency. And anybody that's watched us on the live, because we were live streaming on Facebook, I didn't tell you, I apologize. All right. So one thing I want to do here real quick is give a quick synopsis. We talked about codependency. We talked about multifaceted ways that you can deal with it. Dr. Joe gave y'all some information in the middle that if you listen to the show, you'll find it in the show notes. You'll be able to find any way to meet and greet her across the internet, powered by Descript. So definitely make sure if you're a podcaster, you use Descript. That's my little shameless plug for them. And the thing I want to say to you, Dr. Joe, is thank you. Thank you for opening our eyes to codependency in a way that not a lot of people think. Because when people think of codependency, they think of, I hate to use this, they think of someone that's a drug addict. They think of
Yeah.
that type of
Mhm.
mentality with it. And
Mhm.
that stigma carries over and builds a certain level of ignorance that people carry with them about mental health and illnesses
Sure.
and different things that affect us. And
Mhm.
you gave us clarity today. So what I need you to do when you have time, look in the mirror, give yourself a hug, or your significant other, let them give you a tight hug because you embrace the world and you embrace the world with the manner of this mantra. And that mantra is I am here to help. I am here to
Yeah.
serve. I am here to make sure there's peace and comfort in your life. Peace and comfort are something that not everybody gets. And that's what I try
Mhm.
to do with this show is try to get people to understand you need to have peace and comfort. You can't just have
Yeah.
peace without the comfort because if you get peace, you have to figure out how to be comfortable, right?
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
So so on that note, Dr. Joe and I'm out of here, and the British lady is going to send us out of here.
The
There.
Uncommon
Thank
is
you.
on Instagram,
Thank you. Thank you.
Tumblr, Twitter, TikTok, where we have some great content, Facebook, LinkedIn. Hit up the merch store at onecommonplace.square.site. Join the email list from the website and rate, subscribe, and give feedback from your favorite podcatcher. And lastly, thanks for listening and tune into the next episode.